The Mughal Empire, which emerged in the early 16th century under Babur and reached its zenith during the reigns of Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb, was one of the most prosperous and powerful empires in early modern history. The foundation of its prosperity lay in its well-organized administrative system, particularly its revenue structure. Unlike many contemporary empires that depended heavily on conquest and tribute, the Mughal economy was rooted in agriculture, trade, and an advanced system of land revenue collection. The empire's success was not simply due to the wealth it accumulated, but also the efficient mechanisms through which wealth was generated and distributed across its vast territories. India, during the Mughal period, accounted for a significant portion of the world's GDP, largely due to the flourishing agrarian economy supported by the state. The Mughals introduced systematic measures to ensure that agricultural production remained high and that the empire's treasury received a steady flow of income. This balance between imperial ambition and economic prudence created a horizon of prosperity that made the Mughal Empire one of the richest realms of its time. The land revenue system, known as the Zabt or Todar system, became the backbone of the empire's fiscal strength. It involved careful measurement of land, classification according to fertility, and a standardized rate of taxation based on the average produce. This not only maximized revenue collection, but also provided stability for the peasantry. The Mughals sought to create a mutually beneficial relationship between the state and cultivators, ensuring that farmers were protected from excessive exploitation while maintaining a consistent flow of revenue to the imperial treasury. This balance, though difficult to sustain in later years, reflected the sophistication of Mughal economic thought. Additionally, the prosperity of the Mughal Empire was not confined to the royal court or urban centers. Rural areas, where the majority of people lived, experienced a significant degree of economic growth and social mobility due to agricultural expansion and market integration. New irrigation works, improved cultivation techniques, and secure law and order encouraged farmers to increase production. This, in turn, led to a surplus that could be traded in regional and international markets, connecting India to the global economy. The Mughal Empire thus represented not only political unity, but also economic cohesion that linked villages, towns, and cities into a dynamic and productive system. Under Emperor Akbar, the Mughal revenue administration reached an unparalleled level of efficiency and fairness. Akbar's finance minister, Raja Todar reformed the revenue system to make it more rational and equitable. The introduction of the Ain-e-Dasala, or the 10-year settlement, allowed revenue officials to assess taxes based on the average produce and prices of the previous 10 years. This method reduced arbitrary taxation and corruption, ensuring that farmers were not crushed by sudden increases in demand from the state. The Mughal rulers understood that the prosperity of the peasantry was essential for the stability of the empire. Therefore, they introduced policies that protected cultivators during years of famine, reduced taxes when crops failed, and provided loans and seeds to restart cultivation. The empire also invested heavily in infrastructure, building roads, canals, and bridges that facilitated trade and communication across the vast subcontinent. These measures encouraged agricultural productivity and the growth of trade markets. The Mughal state also maintained detailed records through an extensive bureaucracy. The Patwari kept land registers at the village level, while higher officials such as Amin and Kanungo ensured accuracy in land measurement and assessment. The emperor's diwan oversaw the entire revenue department, ensuring that each region's productivity and contribution to the treasury were meticulously recorded. This systematic approach to governance created a sense of predictability and order within the empire. As a result, investors, traders, and artisans could plan their activities without fear of sudden political instability or economic collapse. The Mughals also encouraged trade by maintaining internal peace and secure roads. The sarais, or rest houses built along major trade routes, provided safe shelter for merchants, fostering a thriving domestic and international trade network. India under the Mughals became a major exporter of textiles, spices, indigo, and precious stones. Ports like Surat, Masulipatam, and Bengal's Hooghly attracted merchants from Persia, Arabia, and Europe. The wealth generated from this trade further enriched the empire and supported its magnificent architecture, including the Taj Mahal and the Red Fort, symbols of imperial grandeur funded by economic success. Thus, the Mughal prosperity under Akbar was not an accident of fortune, but a result of deliberate economic planning and administrative intelligence. It demonstrated how fiscal policy could be used as a tool of empire building, ensuring both political stability and economic growth. The revenue horizon of the Mughal Empire extended beyond mere land tax. The empire's wealth was also rooted in its ability to integrate regional economies and exploit multiple sources of income. Apart from agricultural taxes, the state earned substantial revenue from customs, trade duties, minting of coins, and royal monopolies on certain commodities. The Mughal monetary system was one of the most sophisticated in the world, based on a tri-metallic standard of gold, silver, and copper coins. The silver rupiah, standardized during Sher Shah Suri and continued by the Mughals, became the backbone of Indian commerce. This uniform currency facilitated long-distance trade and integrated local markets into a single economic network. The Mughals also maintained a policy of religious tolerance under rulers like Akbar, which encouraged diverse communities, Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Armenian, and European, to participate in the empire's economic activities. Merchants and financiers such as the Marwaris, Bohras, and Multanis played a crucial role in circulating capital throughout the empire. The Jagirdari system, though primarily administrative, also contributed to revenue management by assigning lands to nobles who collected revenue on behalf of the emperor. While this decentralized some power, it ensured local governance at least during the empire's stable years. The Mughals also derived wealth from luxury industries such as textiles, jewelry, and fine crafts, which were in high demand in foreign markets. Indian cotton, silk, and muslin fabrics were prized in Europe and Southeast Asia, and the imperial workshops employed thousands of skilled artisans. The revenue from these industries not only filled the state coffers, but also sustained vibrant urban economies in cities like Delhi, Agra, and Lahore. These cities became centers of art, culture, and commerce, symbolizing the fusion of material prosperity with aesthetic refinement. The Mughal economy's horizon thus extended from the plow to the palace, connecting peasant labor to imperial splendor. It was a system where the prosperity of the state depended on the prosperity of its subjects, creating a cycle of growth that lasted for over a century. However, this prosperity was not without strain. As the empire expanded, maintaining administrative efficiency became increasingly difficult. Corruption crept into the revenue system, and overassessment in some regions led to peasant revolts. Peasants often fled their lands to escape revenue officials, leading to declining productivity. Trade was also disrupted due to instability and rebellion. The once prosperous cities began to lose their commercial importance as European powers, particularly the British and Dutch, gained control over maritime trade routes. The inflow of silver and gold that had fueled the Mughal economy began to diminish. Additionally, the empire's administrative system became rigid and inefficient. The complex bureaucracy that once ensured accountability turned into a burden of paperwork and bribery. The weakening of central authority further reduced revenue collection efficiency. In response, local governors and zamindars began asserting autonomy, keeping more revenue for themselves and sending less to the imperial treasury. The decline in revenue affected every aspect of the empire, from the maintenance of armies to the construction of public works. The grandeur of the court diminished, and the imperial mint faced shortages of precious metals. Yet, even during this period of decline, remnants of Mughal prosperity persisted in certain regions. Bengal, for instance, continued to flourish due to its fertile land and thriving textile trade. The Mughal system's institutional legacy remained strong enough to sustain local economies even as the central government weakened. However, by the early 18th century, the once vast and prosperous empire had become a collection of semi-independent states. The horizon of revenue that had once symbolized unity and abundance now fragmented into regional interests and competing powers. The story of Mughal decline thus underscores how economic mismanagement and administrative overreach can erode even the most prosperous systems when balance and reform are neglected. In retrospect, the prosperity of the Mughal Empire and its remarkable revenue system stands as a testament to early modern India's capacity for economic organization, administrative innovation, and cultural synthesis. The Mughals achieved a rare balance between imperial ambition and social welfare. Their approach to revenue was not purely exploitative. It was rooted in a pragmatic understanding that the wealth of the empire depended on the welfare of its people. This philosophy distinguished them from many other contemporary powers. The Mughal economic framework combined elements of Persian administration, Indian agrarian practices, and Islamic fiscal principles into a coherent and functional system. The concept of sul-e-kul, universal peace, extended beyond religion into the economic domain, promoting inclusiveness and cooperation among diverse groups. The empire's prosperity was reflected in its art, architecture, and literature, all of which were financed by the revenues of a productive and integrated economy. The Taj Mahal, for instance, was not merely a monument of love, but also a symbol of the empire's fiscal strength and artistic achievement. Even after the Mughal Empire declined, its administrative practices continued to influence later systems of governance, including the British colonial administration. The British adopted and modified Mughal land revenue practices in their permanent settlement and Ryat-Wari systems. Thus, the Mughal model of economic management left a lasting legacy that shaped the future of South Asian political economy. The horizon of revenue that sustained the Mughal Empire illustrates a timeless truth. Prosperity depends not only on the accumulation of wealth, but on its fair distribution and efficient administration. The Mughal rulers, at their best, understood that stability was born of justice, and justice required balance between the state's needs and the people's welfare. This delicate equilibrium was the true source of their golden age. Though time and circumstance eventually eroded their empire, the Mughal achievement in revenue management remains one of the finest examples of early modern economic governance. It reflects a vision of prosperity that transcended mere material wealth, encompassing moral responsibility, administrative wisdom, and cultural harmony. The horizon of revenue that once illuminated the Mughal world continues to inspire historians and economists alike as a symbol of what can be achieved when power and prosperity are guided by the principles of balance, order, and justice.